The Corkin Entertainment Show is brought to you by Podmatch, the ultimate platform designed to connect podcast hosts with prospective guests effortlessly. Are you a podcaster looking to elevate your show to new heights? Or perhaps you're a guest hoping to share your story with a broader audience. Whatever your podcasting goals are, we have the perfect solution for you. Podmatch simplifies the entire process of discovering guests for your show or finding podcasts to feature your expertise. Now imagine a platform where you can easily match with like-minded creators tailored specifically to your niche. With Podmatch, you can effortlessly network with influencers and thought leaders, all while staying true to your podcast vision. There are a multitude of ways that Podmatch can help you grow your brand. You can be part of a thriving community of podcasters and potential guests. Engage, collaborate, and grow together. If you're ready to experience these fantastic benefits for yourself, we invite you to join Podmatch today. Head over to www.joinpodmatch.com/Corkin Entertainment and sign up right now for only $6 a month. That's right, you heard me right, $6 a month. Join the Podmatch family today and watch your podcast soar to new altitudes. Thank you for tuning into the Corkin Entertainment Show, and happy podcasting. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corkin Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran. For those of you guys who may be confused about that little advertisement at the start of this episode, you might be wondering what that was all about. But so just to give a quick little disclosure, Podmatch, that's one of the amazing platforms that you're able to, that podcast hosts and podcast guests are able to connect with people from really all around the world, and you can use search filters and you can narrow it down to, let's say you want to have people on your podcast who want to talk about fitness, nutrition, or music, art, or if you're, vice versa, if you're a podcast guest who wants to talk about that stuff, Podmatch will easily network you with some amazing folks. And if you just use the code that we will also include in the episode descriptions, be sure to use that link so they know that the Corkin Entertainment Show sent you. And so definitely be sure to do that, or whether it's you or anybody you know, spread the word, and it's a great way to network and stuff like that. I've been using it almost pretty well right as soon as I started the podcast, and I will never go back. It's helped in a lot of ways, and I encourage everyone to do the same. So, another thing to shout out, we, of course, have Humbug tickets are on sale now, and thank you to everybody listening who has bought tickets so far. I'm surprised that they've been starting to go this early, but they are, and I'm very, very happy about that. So definitely, guys, be sure you can get your tickets online on Eventbrite, or you can text or call 1-506-624-3315 for our Christmas production of Humbug, which will be on November 15th and 16th at 7 p.m. with a 2 p.m. matinee on the 16th, Saturday. So a lot of fun. We're working hard, and I'm super excited for everybody to see it. And if you guys are listening to this who are here for Andy Semotiuk, and you're not in Miramichi, but if you happen to be in the area, definitely come on by or schedule a trip down. I don't know, whatever you prefer. But just a little shout out for that too, a little plug. And so speaking of Andy Semotiuk, that is our guest today. Andy Semotiuk, this was a great conversation. He's an author, Forbes columnist, and he was also a UN correspondent, TV producer, and he's written 4 books, Salomia, star of opera's Golden Age, and among others. And great conversation, and he's also studying law, or not studying law, he's practicing law in Toronto with the Pace Law Firm. So, he already studied, and he's practicing now. Great conversation. We talk about a lot of things, opera, you name it, and maybe a little bit of law and stuff here and there. And, wonderful conversation. Later in the show, I want to talk about Joker Folie A Deux is now releasing digitally early, which is interesting. And Spider-Man 4, we got a little bit of update on Spider-Man 4, the Tom Holland one. And from what we gather, is Zendaya coming back? We'll talk about that in the show. Should she come back? That's another discussion. So, anyways, guys, without further ado, just sit back, relax, and enjoy today's podcast. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I am your host, Franky Corcoran, and today I am joined by an accomplished writer. He's a multifaceted professional, and my God, his career, it's so great every time I talk to people who have done so much. I mean, this guy, his career spans, writing, journalism, law, public speaking, education. He was a Forbes columnist. And he, focused on immigration and just amazing stuff he's done. He's written recently a book, Salomia, Star of Opera's Golden Age, and super honored to have him on here today. Andy Semotiuk. Andy, how's it going?
Fantastic. I'm so happy to be on your program, Frankie. And it was hilarious how you introduced me as a Forbes communist.
Oh, did I say communist?
But
columnist.
Hilarious. Oh man.
He's not a communist, folks. He's a columnist. I didn't even know I said that. Oh, close enough. I don't know.
Great way to go. Let's go. Come on.
Perfect. And take two. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Luckily, it's not radio. We can just do whatever. And that's funny. I didn't even know I said that. That's a great way to start.
Anyway, yeah.
But yes, great to have you on the podcast. And so even just going through all of that stuff, I'm like, this man has done it all. And I talk to lots of people who do a multitude of things, like whether they're actors, they're directors, and not just in the arts, like you're a lawyer, you're, just nonstop. Yeah. You always do lots. How do you find time to do everything?
Well, what's intriguing to me is you are also multi-talented, and I see you've been in the entertainment industry. That's your area of interest, like me. And I follow what is interesting to me. So, for example, I've done stand-up comedy, something that most lawyers probably haven't done. In fact, most lawyers don't know much about comedy. But like writing books, I'll tell you a little story about how that happened. Maybe that might kind of settle us in terms of what's going on. When I went to university back in the day, at a course called English 101, first year English at UBC in Vancouver, Canada. And I was terrible. I couldn't put two sentences together. Like I barely got through that course. The professor basically took pity on me and said, he knew that if I don't pass this course, I can't continue my university studies. So he gave me 50% on the final day, and thankfully he passed me along. But today, if he learned that I'm a Forbes writer, I've been a Forbes writer for 10 years. I've written 4 books, published another one, so 5 altogether. He'd probably roll over in his grave. What the heck happened? What's with this guy? And I myself, like in my career, I thought I've been a member of Toastmasters for many years, 35 years, as a matter of fact. And that's an organization that cultivates public speaking and leadership. And for 35 years, every week, I attended a club meeting, Toastmasters club meeting, to improve my speaking ability, because I thought that's where I'm going to be the strongest. I'll be the best. Well, as it turned out, the world didn't think so. The world thought I needed to be a writer. Not that I thought, I'm going to be a writer. No, I kind of resisted. I thought, I'm no good in writing. But over time, I wrote articles. And if you want to get good at anything, you just keep doing it. Now, it happens if you have a passion for it. Like if it's in your zone, so to speak, you got, when you're doing it, you get absorbed in it, and time passes by while you think it's like 20 minutes and it's 2 hours when you sort of emerge from your activity. If you're into that kind of an area, which it appears that writing is and speaking certainly is, lo and behold, I made progress.
which
So
is good. Like if you love it, keep doing it. And that's how. Do you find people are better self-taught, or do you find they're better by actually getting the proper training? Because I know some people in whatever field it is, they learn the work by doing the work, and some of it you just think, how are they self-taught? Like that's so professional how they do that. Do you think it's better to go that way, or is it better to get the proper training and stuff like that, or does it really depend on the field that you're pursuing?
my life has been all accident. If you told me, like 50 years ago, you're going to be a lawyer 50 years later and, practicing in Toronto and you've written, 5 books or whatever, I said, you're kidding. Like, that's no
I've heard
way.
crazier things, you know?
Yeah. I just never thought that. But here I am 50 years later, plus or minus. Um, so, and look, I'm just so you got a picture of me. I'm a grandfather. I have a son who's a lawyer, unbelievable, and a daughter who's in film. She was a producer of the Rising Stars program at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Wow.
Two divergent careers. My son, his career is like going like a rocket ship, straight up, in the legal profession. He's like as I don't know what conservative you want to call it as possible. And he's successful and so on, and God bless him. My daughter has been like up and down, like a stock market quote, one of those maps. Her career has been like that. But if you compare the two lives, I don't know. I think my daughter, sometimes you have to side with her in terms of happiness and his fulfillment and so on. Because she loves acting and theater and movies and films. That's her passion. My son likes real estate. That's his passion. Now, how did they get there? I don't know. Part of it is, here's the thing, I think. You have some unique abilities just because of who you are. It might be genetic, or it might be where you grew up, or someone who affected you, deeply and pushed you in a direction you didn't think you'd go in. Or you may go to university or college or trade school or whatever, and someone there enters your world and influences you, pushes you in a direction you didn't think about. And lo and behold, it catches on like a fire. It's what's burning inside your heart and in your mind. Like, I think in all of us, if you dig deep enough, there's an aching need that needs to be expressed, like something that is like beyond words, something higher in terms of who we are as human beings, a need to contribute in some way and to make something meaningful, something concrete out of your life. I think people are aching for the opportunity to make a significant contribution somewhere in their lives.
No, definitely. And it's all, and sometimes people don't even realize it, like that they have certain things in them. Like somebody who, you know, you look at me, I'm like thinking back like 5 years ago, I've been graduating high school for almost, it's crazy. I think my 10-year reunion's coming up in like 3 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That I be doing this right here and talking to people like yourself. Just didn't think I had that in me, and there's other people who just don't think they have certain things in them. How important is like self-confidence to you, if I were, I mean, somebody wants to pursue something, but they just don't feel like they're ready. How do you get ready? How do you prepare yourself for what's to come?
Well, there's this thing called an imposter sort of syndrome that some people have to fight. There are times when I enter into some area and I feel like I'm an imposter. Like, yes, technically I belong there. Even in the legal community, I feel this way. I go to legal events and I feel uncomfortable sometimes, like at a cocktail party or whatever it is. I just, like, I'm not in that scene. I can't stand there with a glass in my hand and always feel, oh, this is what I like this moment that we have right now, Frankie, you and me. I feel comfortable here. I don't feel awkward. I don't feel like an imposter. I feel like I belong here. I think you feel the same way. But there are moments like that when I enter into this other world, where now part of it is natural because no matter where you go, you're not going to always be like, this is my home. You're going to be in circumstances where there are people you don't know and things you don't know. So you have to kind of enter the world and deal with it. But in terms of building confidence, confidence comes from, I think, part of it is making mistakes and learning from them. That's called experience. That's what people pay for, I think, is know-how. Know-how is making mistakes and learning how to do it right. So you know how, right? If you've never made a mistake in your life, you're not much of well, I'm going to say you're a human being, but you
There's no
haven't.
such thing as not making mistakes. Everybody does. Whether it's just who wants to admit it. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah. Now you try not to make big mistakes, like you don't want to lose millions of dollars, but you try your best to do a good job, and lo and behold, occasionally you end up in the ditch. You step in it, and now you have to get your way out of it. Part of, I think, part of life is getting your way out of jams. I think that's part of becoming a professional is how you handle jams. Everybody, like a lot of people, they come to my office and they want to be at the top. Like give me the best job. I want to pay me 100,000 a year. Like because I just graduated from university. I want 100,000 a year. Oh, wait a minute. Like you haven't been through the normal grind. Sort of just like, do you have any metal in your, you got any stamina, any know-how, any experiences that are worthy of someone paying you for them?
So it's like someone asking you, name a situation that you went through or a challenge that you faced at work and how did you overcome it? And that person says, I don't know, this is my first job. Like
Well,
I've never faced that.
well, yeah, we got a problem there. Well, the problem is we're all at some time beginners. We're not all, veterans. So you got to declare, I'm a beginner. I haven't done this before, but I want to do it. I have a burning interest in it, or a really strong desire to do this work, or to perform in this kind of a role, and just go with it. Like part of it, act like you are the person you want to be. If you can't be the person you want to be, until you are the person you are that you want to be. I think that's the way to go. But don't be a phony. Don't go around lying and telling people, oh yeah, I've got like 10 years of experience, and you don't have any experience.
Well, they'll find that out super quick. You get put into a situation and they see, well, yeah, in the interview, you said you've dealt with this before and now you don't know anything about it. Did you just forget? How does
Yeah.
that, how does that work? And it's interesting nowadays. I hear so many people will always talk about that they want to apply for certain jobs, but it's always you need 5+ experience and this and that. But those people, they're like, I want to get the experience, but nobody gives me a chance. Or there's this job here. It's you need a master's degree in this and all like all of these qualifications. How do you see all of that when it comes to like hiring somebody? And do you agree with some of those people who get upset when they say that makes no sense? I want the experience, but nobody's giving it to me. Like, where do you fall on that
Okay.
side of things?
Well, I got something to share with your listeners on this one. Okay.
Wonderful.
Never in my life have I been, oh, you're the perfect guy for us. We've been waiting for you to show up over here. I'm always too small, too fat, too tall, too stupid, too smart, too educated, not educated enough. You know, I'm not the right kind, I'm not the right color, I'm not the right size, shape, right? I'm too late, I'm too early. That's my life. That's been my whole life. Uh, Nobody's ever come to me, well, with one exception, and the exception was I there was a time when I wrote at the United, I was a UN correspondent for a few years, working in New York at the United Nations. Now, there's a long story about how I got there. It wasn't easy. It wasn't I just turned around, became a UN correspondent. But that's not the story I want to tell. What I want to the story I want to tell is, so I had some experience, know-how from there. A few years later, I ended up over here in Toronto, where I am now practicing law at Pace Law Firm. And I was writing little notes about immigration, which is the field I work in, to at comments on other people who had been publishing articles and stuff like that. And one day I got an email from Forbes, and they said, "Would you like to write articles about immigration?" Well, would I? Of course I would. And that was 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. That was the one and only time that someone actually approached me and said, "Hey, would you like to work for me?" I've met all kinds of people who tell me all the time, well, they want me to do this, or they're asking me to start there and so on. That's not my life. They live in a different world than my world. My world has been all about roll up your sleeves and do whatever you can. You got to break the door down, not physically, not, violently, but you got to break the door down. The resistance is strong, but there's a reason for the resistance, because there's a lot of phonies around and a lot of people who are useless or tired or, who just don't have the energy or the intelligence or the stuff. Like there are 5 rules that I think would be very helpful for people to follow. They're sort of 5 rules for success in life. They're very simple. First one is do what you promise. Second one, come on time. Third, finish what you start. Fourth is mean what you say. That is to say, don't be cynical, but say what you mean in your heart. And the fifth is be kind. Now, those rules are very simple, but they're very hard to follow, especially come on time. I have some friends, a few, that if we agree that we'll meet in 10 years at Times Square under the bubble at 7 o'clock on December 7th, in 10 years from now, if we agree, they'll be there at that time, at that place. That's a mark of someone who's really buckled down on their discipline and professionalism, coming on time. There's a lot you can find, a lot you can see about people by whether they come on time or not. That's a real sort of a flag about seeing people. Now, not everybody comes on time. I come late. There have been times when I came late. I've missed meetings. I'm not perfect. I'm not I'm not an angel or something.
Andy was 45 minutes late to this interview. No, I'm kidding. I was sitting here for an hour and he wasn't showing up. He's like, "Oh, right, we're doing an interview today."
Yeah. Now, but when you're late, you can do something about it. One thing is you let them, here's the rule. You call or write or whatever and say, "I can't make it. I'm going to be late." forgive me. Here's the reason, like traffic or whatever it is, right? And you negotiate your way out of it. A way not to handle it is just show up late a half hour. And I
And
learned the hard way.
just hope they don't say anything.
Yeah, I learned the hard way. I used to be a head of an organization, a community organization, and I didn't take it seriously enough to be on time. And I'd always be late. And I'd show up at the meeting, there'd be 5 people there. And I thought, well, I'm the head whenever I show up, that's when the meeting starts. And I'd come 15, 20 minutes late. And these guys are all like profs, lawyers, whatever, was, a charitable group. Well, one day they let me have it. I said, well, who do you think you are? What do you think we're doing? Like, we're not, our time is valuable too. We didn't just show up just for you could, for whenever you show up. You have no respect for our time. Ooh, sweat. Okay. From that time on, I always showed up on time. And, ever since that, I've learned that lesson.
And sometimes that's the best way to learn is this might be embarrassing. You're going to get yelled at. You're going to get, but that's what it is. You mess up because we can't live in a society where you're constantly making mistakes and you're costing the company you're working for like hundreds of dollars doing, making careless mistakes. And if you suddenly get growled for it, you can't suddenly turn it around on them and go, oh, that's just mean. They can't treat people like that. It's like, well, no, it's like, well, in that situation, be grateful that all you got was getting yelled at and not firing, like that's something I know people who are guilty. I used to be guilty of that in school. If a teacher would yell at me for something, not that I was sometimes I might have been rambunctious or whatever as a kid growing up. But back then you're thinking that teacher's an asshole, this and that. Yeah. But you look back on it nowadays, you kind of get a new perspective on it as the years go by and go, I should have known better. I should have done this. I should have done that. And that really, the less mistakes that you make, the better. Like nobody's perfect. I mean, we said that right from the start. Nobody's perfect. Define the perfect person. You can't. That's what I always say. Someone says, name someone who's perfect. There's nobody. That's not a thing because everyone will find something, no matter who it is. You can have somebody who everybody loves, but then there might be one person who says, oh my God, that person, he I can't stand how he looks. His hair color is, like they'll find something about them. So in everybody's eyes, nobody's perfect. Yeah. But it's just a matter of, do you see it better as long as the employers think you do a good job, that's all that matters? Or is it just you want everybody to, as many people to like you as possible? How do you see that?
I have a brother-in-law who is vice president of Subaru Canada, and he once told me, so long as you put in an honest day's work, you'll never be fired. And I adopted that credo. An honest day's work as you define honest day's work for yourself. So I put in an honest day's work every day. Now, in my case, an honest day's work means I have to accomplish something in a day, whatever it is, write an article, finish a book, meaning writing or reading a book, or, attend a meeting or I look for something that I can say concretely, this day I did this one thing. And it's remarkable how little you can accomplish in a day, even though you're trying very hard. But I truly believe that. I don't think anybody will be fired if you just put in an honest day's work.
That's all it is. I mean, like that's all it comes down to. And that can apply with anything really, whether it's you're depressed, it just starts off with something small like walking the dog or taking out the trash, picking up clothes out the floor, like just something so small. It starts off so small, but in the end it feels so good. Like working for a job where you're taking baby steps. You want to move up, you want to make more money. Okay, but you got to take those steps and prove that you're worthy of the promotion, stuff like that. So really things will come to you if you work hard for it. But nowadays I find I know lots of people who think it should just come handed to you. You know what I mean? Like you've done this for a long time. What do you say when you hear those people who say who maybe they don't outright say it? I don't think people I don't think I've ever known people who have outright said I want this handed to me, but they word it in a way that's I expect this to just come to me just by sitting on my ass and expecting it to fall.
Yeah,
You know, like a bird crap dummy or something.
yeah. I think age has to do something with that. You know, when I was young, and let's say, for example, I went through law school and I graduated from law school. To tell you truthfully, I thought, well, I should get a good salary. You know, like I just finished law school. Now, now that I'm in the soup for a long time, I realize, well, it's the beginning mark in that profession to finish law school. Like that's where we all start. It's not where we all finish. It's where we all start. Uh,
I passed the
so
bar, everything's good now,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, you know, so uh, part of it is just maturing in your life and understanding, you know, how life works. Um, and like in my case, I have to confess that you know, I'm not a billionaire. I'm not the president of the United States. You know, I never saved someone's life with open heart surgery. You know, there are a lot of things that I have not done, and my achievements are humble compared to what some people do every day, brain surgery, or you know, like I don't know, win a Super Bowl, right? Like those. But put it this way, Einstein, let's take Einstein, is probably the smartest guy that ever lived, right? Okay, in physics, you're not going to beat Einstein, but give him a basketball and, you know, try him out in the basketball court. He's not going to do so well, right?
I got
So,
money on Michael Jordan, you know? Like
yeah, me too. Yeah. So, you know, just because you're no good in some area doesn't mean, or you are good in one area, doesn't mean you're, you know, lousy in another. But for those people who kind of expect everything to be just handed over to them, maturity is a problem, you know, you have to mature. Yeah. Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you have to say thank you. Yeah, or you don't have to say thank you when someone does something, you know. Um, like uh, I learned in my own profession, who taught me? Legal secretaries taught me. Be humble, you know, treat people like human beings. You know, who are you to be looking down your nose at anybody? No matter who you are, even if you're president of the United States. Like, who do you think you are? Right? We're all human beings here. We're all put into this soup together. We got to make something out of it, you know. And maybe you got a great, you know, position and you got lots of power and all that stuff. And maybe I'm just poor and I got nothing. But we're in the soup together, you know. Like, here's a problem. You're Elon Musk. You got $240 billion, but you don't have the courtesy to treat other people as decent human beings, worthy of the respect that they rightly deserve. Well, what kind of a person are you? Is that a successful person? I don't think so. You
no,
know?
like there's many almost similarly to how we were talking about there's no such thing as the perfect person. Uh Defining success is different as well too. Some people view as in order to be successful, you got to be rich, you know, like Elon Musk, and have all of this money, $240 billion, or you just be making a steady living and doing what you love, and you're happy and content with life. People
Yeah.
view success in that way. You know, I don't think you need to be an Elon Musk to be happy. And that's how I've always viewed things. And of course, the big the question I hear all the time: would you rather be rich or famous? What would you choose?
You know, it's funny you should raise that. I think I heard, or someone told me once, that you're going to be either rich or famous, but it's very hard to be both. And I find that to be true in my life. I'm more famous than rich. Like I'm not a billionaire. I don't, like I don't walk around with a gold, a watch, a Rolex, and all that kind of stuff. I look at what's happening in my life and where is the green light, where are the doors open, and those are the doors that I enter. And they're not always the doors that I want or expect, but those are the doors that make it possible to progress. So I go where life is signaling to me. I told you about my Toastmasters experience. 35 years I spent, cultivating speaking, but it just wasn't happening. Life kept signaling, oh, right. So I started writing. So now I'm writing. But now I'm back into speaking.
Yes, and like, and that's something too. Your book, which is Salomia, Star of Opera's Golden Age. That's one of the books that you've written. You've written five, correct?
I've written four, but I've also published a fifth one with my son, who wrote a book.
Okay, fantastic. The one so Salomia, that one really stood out to me. Feel free to tell us about that. So
Sure.
you wrote that for your great aunt, and it's all
Right.
about opera and the
Right.
world of opera. So what kind of drew you to that particular subject?
Okay. Well, I'm going to say this right at the beginning. Probably most people who are listening to this podcast are not big opera fans, nor was I when I started. I didn't think, well, opera, I love opera. So this story, and I'll be brief on it, it's about the rise to fame for someone who rose from obscurity to the world's highest point in the world of opera. Now, okay, for her it was opera. Maybe for you it might be podcasting, or for me it might be law, or whatever it is. Every person has their own field and must choose what turns them on, so to speak. Well, for her it was opera and singing. And she's, the father asked her, well, what do you want to do with your life? And she said, I love to sing. I want to sing. And he said, well, let's send you to opera school then. First locally, then off to Milan. She was in Milan in Italy. She met this guy, Puccini, who wrote and was a great opera, composer. He composed a number of operas. And I'll briefly just tell you that she hit stardom. She performed all through Europe, North Africa, South America, North America, everywhere in those areas, and sang with the best and performed with the best. And this guy Puccini fell in love with a story about a geisha girl in Japan who met this American naval officer in the 1800s when the American Navy opened up Japan to the world. And they fell in love. They had a romantic relationship. And he then announced, we'll have to go back to America. They're sending me back to America. And she said, well, I'll wait for you. He said, I'll come back. She said, I'll wait for you. And she waited. He left, but she was pregnant with his son. And she gave birth to the son in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. She's waiting 4 or 5 years until finally he shows up again, back in Japan, but with an American wife in tow. And the question becomes, well, what do we do with his son? Does he stay with a geisha girl in Japan, or does he go back to America with the father? And they resolve, well, let's send him to America with the father. It's much better for him. So this geisha girl, her name is Butterfly in Japanese, which is Chiyo-Chiyo-san. That's the name, Chiyo-Chiyo-san. She pulls the little boy off to the side in the opera, and she says to the boy, just as he's going to leave for America, she says to the boy, look at this face. It's the face of your mother. Remember it. You'll never see it again. And he then leaves with the father to go to America. And she later commits suicide. That's how the opera ends. But anyway, this Puccini, the guy who composed this opera, put together this story and all the music and everything and put it on at La Scala, the foremost music opera theater in the world, and it crashed. The public hated it. They whistled it down, yelled it down, and so on. And he was crestfallen. What the heck does he do? This is a great opera. Madame Butterfly, it's called. It's a fantastic opera. Wow. He didn't know what to do. So he went to his friend, who was a director, a guy named Arturo Toscanini, who by then was the world's probably greatest director. And he said, what do I do, Arturo? I don't know about this thing. And he says, oh, you need a lead lady to rescue this opera, because that opera was put on not with Solomia, who was my great aunt, but with another opera star, a lady named Rosina Storchio, and this guy Zenatello, two great opera stars, who collapsed with this opera. And he said, you get Solomia. Her name was Solomia Krushelnitsky back then. Now, that may not mean much to people, even in the opera world today, but she was like the Maria Callas, who today, or not long ago, was the greatest female opera star in opera. She was the Maria Callas of her day in the 1900s. And so he went to her and he said, hey, Solomia, I collapsed with this opera. I need your help. Help me put this opera together again. And she was already famous, like she'd already reached the top of the opera world. But for the sake of friendship, because they were all friends, she said, okay, I'll do it. And they worked for months putting this opera back on. She wore a kimono, a Japanese kimono, for several months just to get into the role, because she was 30, in her 30s when she had to play this role. And the role called for someone who was a teenager. Chio-san was a teenager. So it was quite a leap. But she did it. And when they performed the opera in a place called Brescia in 1904, in Brescia, in the Teatro Grande in that little town, 60 miles away from Milan in Italy. It was a great hit. 7 standing ovations at the end of it. The public, when they performed the opera, when they finished an aria in the opera, a song, they'd shout out, do it again, because they didn't have instant replay. So they had
Encore.
to re-sing. Yeah, encore. And re-sing the arias for the,
And
so,
just encore after encore after encore.
Yeah, it was like that. So anyway, they had 7 standing ovations, and the opera went around the world. And to this day, is one of the top operas beloved in the world to this day. Now, I'm telling you this story today because this is the 120th anniversary of the successful restaging of the opera in 1904, this year. And I'm telling you about Solomia because her name, while once was celebrated in the world, was lost to the world because she ended up behind the Iron Curtain just at the outset of World War II, never to emerge from there. And while her friends continued, for example, Toscanini came to America and was the orchestra leader of the NBC orchestra in the United States. Puccini continued on with his career and so on, but her career was cut short. That's briefly a little bit about the book. And it's an audio book too, by the way. It's this book, all my books are available on Amazon. If you type in my name, Andy Semotiuk, you can find them, or Solomia. And
no, definitely. And Solomia, so that's spelled like Solomon, but it's instead of a O-N at the end, it's E-A. I think I got that right. Yep, perfect.
Right. Solomea. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's great. And that always really stood to me. And like you said, opera, not many people really not that they're not interested in it. It's just one of those things where it's just opera. Yeah, cool. I mean,
yeah.
It's nothing to, nowadays it's all musical this or musical that, like it's those are the big pops, but opera, that's kind of where it all started. You know what I mean? Like
Indeed it was.
that's where things began. There wouldn't be no Frozen. There wouldn't be no Grease. There wouldn't be
Exactly.
no Mamma Mia without opera. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's true. That's very true. Yeah. They used to spend a whole day at the opera. It wasn't like today where you get dressed up in a tuxedo, go to the opera. No, no, no. They'd go for the whole day. They'd, they had like three, four operas in a day. And they go in there, have dinner in the opera theater, have coffee, socialize with the people, get some candy or ice cream or whatever, and spend the whole day there. Those are the good old days, 1900 and before.
Yeah, nowadays it just walk in, pay, watch the show, go home. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
I
it's
I
literally
went
like
to
3 hours.
I just went to see Madame Butterfly at the Met in New York not long ago, just a couple of months ago.
Ooh. How was that good?
Fantastic. It was
Wow.
now I'm not someone who goes to the opera every month or whatever. I rarely go to an opera, but it was fantastic. It was unbelievable. If you haven't tried opera, try it out. You might like it, you know. People devote their whole lives to that field. If you're not into opera, I get it. You're not into opera, but it's not a story about opera. It's a story about a person succeeding, breaking through, breaking the glass ceiling, making something out of her life. She came to the United States. She was in New York in 1928, same year that the Chrysler Building was built. It's the year Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building had a competition. Who's going to finish first? Chrysler finished first, 1928. Empire State Building, I think it finished in 1935. But in 28, she showed up. Those are the roaring 20s. Duke Ellington out in Harlem performing jazz. Jazz was hot. The city was on fire, like with music and stuff like that. And she loved music. Like that was her thing, right? So she performed in New York, in Philadelphia, in Chicago. Then she came up to Canada. She performed in Montreal and as far west as Winnipeg. For,
Oh, wow.
yeah, if you for those who don't know where Winnipeg is, it's in the middle of Canada. It's like where Minneapolis is roughly in the United States. And she had to go, I think it was like a 3-day train trip to get out there and back in those days. So it's quite, she was a traveler. She world traveler, married an Italian guy who was the mayor of the city of Viareggio on the coast, the western coast of Italy. If you've never been to Viareggio, put it on your bucket list. It's a beautiful little town.
Yes, I got a lot of things on my bucket list. And it's crazy just how much I've yet to accomplish. I mean, I still got lots of time to plan it all, but like I still remember Cuba was going to happen in April 2020. We were all getting ready. We had a big family trip planned, and then COVID hit, and so that was going to be like my first big trip. Well, not technically my first big trip out because like you, I went to New York and saw some Broadway and stuff, but on my bucket list still Disney World's one. Like
Yeah,
I'm like I don't care. Disney World's one of those places where it doesn't matter how old you are, it is always good no matter what age you're at. Have you been to Disney World or
love it, love it.
love Disney
Yes,
World?
yeah.
I'm like it's still on my bucket list. I don't care how old
Let,
I get.
let me
Like
tell
it's
you a little story about Disney. I worship Walt Disney. To me, he was a great human being. One day, Walt Disney, before he built Disneyland and everything, he called up this guy named Art Linkletter. Now, Art Linkletter was quite a famous television personality. He had day shows uh, like every day on television. And he says, Art, come with me. I'm going down south from Los Angeles down into Orange County. Come with me. So they get in the car. They drive out to this orange field, like with orange trees.
mm,
And Disney gets out of the car with Linkletter and he says, Art, look here. I'm going to build a beautiful a park for kids to come, for families to come. Over here is going to be Fantasyland. Over here, Adventureland. Over here, Tomorrowland.
He's just
And it
like,
goes through.
cool. That'll never happen.
So, and Art's there. Art was a real character. He's a very interesting human being. He's looking at these orange trees, thinking, "What the heck?" You know. So when when Disney finishes, he says, "Art, invest with me. Come and make this dream happen." And Art says, no." And he goes around talking later on, many years later, and I've seen him talk, Art Linkletter, in person. He says, "If I'd invested back then, I'd have been a multi-millionaire, but I missed it. I just didn't get it." You know. Uh,
Well, that's the funniest. Like when you get an offer like that, you don't realize at that point just how life-changing it could be.
oh
That's
yeah,
the problem. So that's why it's so hard to predict too, because you could have this amazing idea and you think it's going to be a hit, but the people you pitch it to, the people that you want to help with it, just go, no, that's never going to work.
yeah,
And then years later, they're kicking themselves in the arse and go, okay, well, now can I be involved? It's like, well, no, screw you. You didn't believe in my plans to begin
yeah,
with,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder, Art must have been kicking himself,
Oh, he was. He
bad.
was.
Like,
I had a, forgive me, we're probably going to run overtime, but I'll tell
no,
you the
you keep
story anyway.
going.
Okay. I had the pleasure of spending an afternoon with Steve Wozniak. Now, Steve Wozniak was the scientific genius behind Apple Computer. And like he's the one that actually built the cell phone, the one I'm holding in my hand right now. And now Jobs got all the publicity and everything, Steve Jobs, but it was Steve Wozniak that developed this thing. So I was in Los Angeles one day, and a friend of mine, he was at an event where I was there, and a friend of mine knew him. And he says, or this girl says to me, "Oh, I want you to meet Steve Wozniak, this Andy Semotiuk." And I says, "Oh, hello." And she says, "Yeah, he invented Apple Computer." Now, back then, Apple was not a big name yet, you know. And I said, "Oh, Apple Computer. Well, nice to meet you, Steve. We're going to go for lunch. Would you like to go for lunch?" "Yeah, let's go for lunch." I spent 3 hours with Steve Wozniak talking about everything in the world except computers. for,
You just
three,
hit it off.
for 3 hours, and nothing about his life. Like, you know, about the working life, not at work.
Right.
So, and I wasted 3 hours of my time talking to him and him about anything except what was important.
And
And
just
then
like
we had
Art
our separate
Linklater,
rooms.
you were kicking yourself in the arse for that.
I'm kicking myself to this day, even right now as I'm talking to you. I'm the only guy that spent 3 hours talking to Steve Wozniak, but not about computers. Like, that's good.
Your biggest regret. If you're
Yeah,
listening to this, like, yeah, let's catch up. Steve, are you listening to this?
yeah. Oh well.
Is he still alive? I know
Oh
Steve Jobs
yeah,
has
he's
passed.
alive.
He is still alive. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's Steve Jobs I'm thinking of. He passed away
Yeah, he
already.
did. Yeah, he did.
But Steve Wozniak, if you're listening to this, come on the
Yeah.
show. Andy will be back on. We'll
Yeah,
have a nice conversation,
sure.
everything about everything. But we'll make sure that we touch on. We'll have a little checklist
Yeah.
and
I
make
doubt
sure.
he'll remember, but it's true. It's true. We went to an Italian restaurant.
Oh, well, and this was how many years ago?
Oh, it's got to be like, I don't know, 30, 35 years ago or whatever.
Oh,
A long,
they're older than me now.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. So, Andy, you are we could talk all day just about
Oh
everything
yeah.
that you're doing. But I know that you're a crazy busy guy. And so you also have some book signings coming up too. Where
Oh
are
yeah.
you going to be doing the book signings for people who are in
One
those
in
areas?
one in Miami, Florida on what is that, November 6th, and two up in Canada, one in Ottawa and the other one in Toronto over here. Just if anybody's interested, you can email me at pacelawfirm.com. You can get a hold of me at pacelawfirm and I'll let you know the exact place and time and everything.
Perfect. Well, Andy, congratulations on all of your success. I mean, you've done so much, as I said, and like so much that we could talk for hours. You know what? Let's just start our own podcast then. I mean, you've been on lots of podcasts too, guys. Definitely be sure to check out all the stuff that the shows Andy's been on. The Jeff Macalino podcast he was just on. For those of you guys remember, Jeff was on a few weeks back. And just great conversation, Andy. And definitely let's stay in touch. And best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, Frankie. I really enjoyed talking to you tonight. It was just fantastic.
My pleasure. So, guys, we're going to take a short break. We will be right back. But until then, this is Frankie and Andy signing off. Have a good one, Andy.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Crooked Entertainment Show. That was me and Andy Semotiuk. Thank you so much, Andy, for coming on. If you made it this far, Andy, and guys, be sure to check out what he does at pacelawfirm.ca or .com, pacelawfirm.com, and be sure to check out his books on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those sites and stuff. So definitely be sure to support him. Great guy and great at what he does. So, moving on to our solo discussion topic today, two solo discussion topics. First one I want to talk about is a little movie that I still have not seen. I plan to see it in theaters, but at this point, I don't think I'm gonna. I'm gonna wait till it comes out on digitally. Because that's exactly what's happening sooner rather than later. That's, of course, Joker Folie A Deux. I was very, very excited yet nervous because we've had some bad reviews. We've had some good, or not actually, you know what? Not even good reviews. I've heard a few good things, but they're very far and few in between. The general consensus on Joker 2 is that it's shit. So there's no really easy way to put that. But anyways, so Joker 2 sets digital release date just 2 weeks after bombing at the box office. This is an article from Game Rant. And first off, I think it's absolutely insane. So I went on and I compared the budget of the first Joker movie with Joker Folie A Deux. The budget for Joker 1 was $55 to $70 million. That was their budget for that one, which, I mean, that's not bad. That's a good budget. Well, then they definitely got their money's worth and stuff like that because it made over $1 billion. So, which is why we got to see the sequel to begin with. The sequel has a budget of $190 to $200 million. Like, holy shit. And right now at the box office, this is of the time of the recording, $168.3 million, and the movie came out 2 weeks ago. That's sad. That is really sad, and especially considering how beloved... I mean, I know the first Joker movie wasn't loved by everybody, but I think that movie's a masterpiece, and that's why I was so excited to see Joker 2. But after seeing these reviews, and now that we learned that it's coming out digitally... I think I'm going to save my money. I think I'm going to save my money from going to the theaters to watch it and just wait till it comes out digitally because, you know, I did see the ending. I'm just scrolling on Twitter and stuff like that, or X, whatever. I hate that. And I see the ending of Joker 2. I won't say it for anybody who hasn't seen it. And I'm like, okay, that's just lovely. That's just lovely. That's amazing. Sarcastic. In case you guys couldn't tell, that was sarcastic. And I'm like, oh, well, that's just, yeah, what a way to go out. That's just fucking beautiful. So as soon as I saw that, and then I find out that it's coming out digitally, I said, screw it. I'm just gonna wait till it comes out. I won't even bother spending my money to go to the theater because I mean, a lot of the people who I go to see these movies with, they have no interest in Joker 2 after the terrible reviews that it's been getting. So this is the article from Game Rant. After a disastrous outing at the box office, Warner Bros. Is planning to bring Joker Folie A Deux to the small screen much earlier than expected. Like way early. The film, directed by Todd Phillips, is the sequel to the 2019 movie that broke several box office records. Even though it received a mixed response from critics, the first film of the franchise went on to earn more than $1 billion globally and received 11 nominations at the Academy Awards. And they don't include this, but it also won an Academy Award for Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix. So it didn't come as a shock when production giant and Phillips announced a sequel to the hit film. However, Joker 2 received more polarizing reviews than the first one and bombed at the box office. As a result, Warner Bros. Has announced that the film will be released on home entertainment platforms much sooner than originally anticipated. That's that's kind of an understatement, to be honest with you. That's brutal, man. That is really brutal. So when you go and you look at the statistics here, so the sequel to the 2019 film had its world premiere at the Venice International Film Festival in September 2024, and even though the movie received a massive standing ovation, the reactions were very polarizing. I think this happens a lot at those film festivals. They get like a lot of long-standing ovations. So I guess for Venice Film Festival, it's not this is nothing different. It could have been a pile of shit. They could have put Grown Ups 2 there, and people still would have given it a massive standing ovation. It should be noted that the reactions to the first film were also polarizing, but most of them were positive. I think the first film's a masterpiece. I still stand by that. On the contrary, the reviews for the second movie were mixed to negative. Initially, there were reports that Joker 2 might earn more than $100 million domestically in its opening weekend. Unfortunately, negative word of mouth played a significant role in this movie's debacle at the box office, and it only made $37.8 million in North America. As per industry trends, the movie dropped a record 81% in its second weekend and earned only $7.05 million. As per the projections, Warner Bros. Might lose $150 to $200 million during Joker 2's theatrical run. That's their whole fucking budget right there. Like, oh my God, that's sad, man. That is really sad, especially with how beloved, in my opinion, the first one is and how fantastic that movie is. And I was really hoping I was going to like it. But here's the thing. I don't want to... because I haven't seen it yet. I've just seen the ending, and I'm really disappointed. But who knows? The rest of the movie might be good, but I don't know. I'm not holding my breath. I'm really not holding my breath here. I just think it's sad. So that's why, for me, I'm just going to wait till it comes out digitally. There's no sense in wasting my money going to the theater to watch this now, knowing that I could just watch it digitally in a few weeks. So when I do see it, I'll do a big spoiler review and give my thoughts on it. I don't want to give the ending away and stuff like that now. Not that many people probably care about it because I guess the movie's not good. So anyways, definitely guys, I'm really curious to see what everybody thinks about that. Joker Folie A Deux, very, very sad to hear about this, but what can you do? I read that Todd Phillips agreed to do it on the condition that he gets 100% creative control and that he didn't have to test screen and do any of that stuff, which I think is a bad idea. You, as a studio, you should not let people do that, especially a big studio like that. That's a ballsy move, and it's really bit them in the ass. Understandably so. You can see why Joker 3 is not happening. Todd Phillips has already said he's not doing it again, which, yeah. They didn't even want to do the second one. It was just because the first one was so successful. That's why they made a second one. So... but we'll see how it is. I'm really curious to see how the whole movie turns out. But just going by that ending, we'll see how I feel about the rest of it. But definitely be sure to let me know your thoughts on that. And so moving on to our last discussion topic is going to be with regards to a movie that has been fairly ignored when it comes to Marvel and Disney announcing what's coming up next for Marvel projects and superhero projects, and that's Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland, of course. So we've gotten a little update from Spider-Man himself, Tom Holland, who said that he read a draft for Spider-Man 4 with Zendaya, but it needs work. He stated here, let me see here. One of the things to bear in mind with Marvel is that your film is a small cog in a large machine, Holland explained about the development process of Spider-Man 4. And that machine has got to keep running, and you need to make sure you can fit into that timeline at the right time to benefit the bigger picture. That's one of the challenges we're facing. The time in which we need to get that done is a tall order, but definitely achievable with the fantastic people we have working on it now. And so it needs work, but the writers are doing a great job. I read it 3 weeks ago, and it really lit a fire in me. Zendaya and I sat down and read it together, and we at times were bouncing around the living room like, this is a real movie worthy of the fans' respect, but there's a few things we need to figure out before we can get that really going, but it's exciting. So that's exciting news to hear. I mean, it was a no-brainer that Tom Holland was going to be back. I knew after No Way Home, his contract, No Way Home was the last film in his contract, so there was a little bit of talks of, is he going to be back for Spider-Man 4? But I mean, clearly, he's read a script. It's not like he's going to, So, yeah, he'll be back. And, of course, I'm sure he'll be back in Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty as well. Or not Kang Dynasty, Doomsday. Yeah, Kang Dynasty. That's old news now. So that's exciting. But the one thing that stood out to me, and I see some people are running with this, is that Zendaya, he's read the script with Zendaya, and they were both excited about it. And so there's two ways to look at it. One, obviously, they're together. They are a couple. So really, they just read the script because they live together and this and that. So, but the other one is that Zendaya is back in the movie. Because, of course, where we left No Way Home, MJ doesn't know who Peter is. They changed all that stuff, the whole world forgets who Peter Parker is to protect everybody. And so when he gets the opportunity to reintroduce himself, he decides against it. And it was a really, really powerful moment. And so I think right there, that's a perfect place to leave Zendaya and her story in Marvel. I really don't want to see her back. Not because I don't like Zendaya, and not because I don't like I can't think of the guy who plays Ned. Jacob. Oh, I can't remember his name now. But anyways, I think it's. I just think it would completely ruin the ending of No Way Home if and the impact of it and the significance of it if they just remember who Peter is. I don't know. I think I'm ready for a new phase in Marvel because this is one of the things that we're talking about now. There's no more Iron Boy. There's no more. He's not under anybody's guidance. I want to see one that's more grounded in reality. And if you have Zendaya come back and everything's all fine and dandy again, then it's just going to ruin it for me, I think. So best way to go about it is, I think, to she can be involved with it maybe, I guess, but I mean, I don't know. I just really think if you want to make sure that the impact and how emotional of an ending that No Way Home was, you gotta move on from what happened in the trilogy. We want to see a grounded movie, with Kingpin, maybe Daredevil, and then maybe the symbiote. We need that. Like, I just think we shouldn't be undoing things just because, we love Zendaya, we want her to come back. Like, they're talking about they want Toby and Andrew to come back again for this. Those are whispers. I don't know if they're true or not. But if it makes sense for the story, by all means, yes, please do it. But don't force it in just because No Way Home made $1 billion, because then we're going to get the same thing we got with Joker 2, where it was just we didn't plan a Joker 2, but the first one made $1 billion, and now we got to do it. So I don't want to see that with No Way Home, where we have to recreate No Way Home because it made $1 billion, and we want this to make $1 billion. I think Spider-Man 4 is $1 billion film. I think it is, with or without Toby and Andrew, and with or without Zendaya and stuff like that. I think there's enough interest in Spider-Man now. I mean, hell, Far From Home made $1 billion. So I think, I would say it's easily $1 billion film. But yeah, so I wouldn't stick with just the fact that Tom Holland read it with Zendaya. I wouldn't take that as she's coming back. I just think they're together. They're a couple. They read it together. That's how I see it. I could be wrong. Maybe that is the case. Maybe she is in it. We'll find out. But will she be back? I think maybe. I mean, I don't want to speak more of like what I think will happen versus what I want to happen. What I want to happen is I don't want her to come back so it doesn't ruin the impact of No Way Home. But I think they still may bring her back. It's tricky. We'll see how it goes. But because all we're really basing this off by is what Tom Holland said. But yeah. Anyways, I'm super excited. Regardless that it's at least coming along because they were announcing all the upcoming Marvel movies and stuff like that. No Way Home, or not No Way Home. Spider-Man 4 wasn't anywhere on it. So I'm just glad to hear that because they read the script already, or at least a draft that still needs work, that there's progress. Things are happening, and we're going to get it. If I had to guess, probably 2026, 2027, something like that, if I had to, throw out a rough prediction. But we'll see what happens. So definitely, guys, be sure to let me know your thoughts on whether we are going to see Zendaya back in Spider-Man 4 and whether it should, whether she should come back. That's another big question. But my opinion, she shouldn't come back. Not because I don't like Zendaya, but because No Way Home's big, powerful ending wouldn't mean anything anymore. So yeah, that will do it for the show today, guys. I want to thank my guest, Andy Semotiuk, and be sure to type in pacelawfirm.com to find out everything Andy does and buy his books. And thank you guys so much. Get your tickets for Humbug as well. There's still lots of time, and they are going fairly quick. So definitely be sure to do that and come support local talent. So thank you very much, guys. We'll see you. Is it next month? Maybe see you next month. No, I'll see you at the end of October. It feels like it's the end of October already, but well. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you next time. Until then, this is Franky signing off. Have a great week, everybody.